If there were a place in the world where you could store and protect the truth, it might be deep in the Rockies, in a field, on a ranch, in a silo, where an American patriot tells you what keeps him awake at night. Now, here is Medal of Honor recipient Drew Dix and words from the Silo.
Welcome, folks, to the final episode of Season 1 of Words from the Silo. This is going to be a unique episode because we've done some 20 episodes and we had a lot of feedback. And so what we're going to do with this episode is to get 2 or 3 minutes of each of the topics that we already discussed and review them. And I hope you enjoy it. It's going to be thought-provoking, and so our next season will start after in a couple of months. But in the meantime, you can still watch us, you can still contact us, and please call us, subscribe, but call us and give us some input. There might be some topics coming up that are really going to be hot. I predict that in the next couple of months. Some things are going to happen. Yep. And I'm hoping that we remain peaceful, we can have peaceful solutions, and we can still not tolerate poor behavior without violence, but we need to take action and get some things done. So, Brad, do you have anything to put into that?
No, it's just been great doing 20 episodes with you. You know, I learned a lot listening and kind of sitting here. I don't know if I added very much to the program, but certainly always good to be with you.
No, Brad, you added a lot, actually. I've had a lot of people say we're a pretty good balance. So on that, until we see you again, do what you can to get through, but just remember, tolerance is a character flaw. An etching from the Vietnam Wall.
Yep.
And it's Glenn English. Yeah. I came back from Vietnam and bought a little house in a subdivision outside of Fort Bragg on Badger Court. And 2 doors down, there was a lot of military families there, and was a sergeant. Had a couple little kids, and they're age of my kids, and of course I had just received a Medal of Honor, and Sergeant English was old school, career military, and when I first came back, I realized that through him actually that having the Medal of Honor is going to impact my life, because this guy, who was very tough and very confident in his ability, had a difficult time talking with me because I was a Medal of Honor recipient. And I got to know him a little bit. I mean, we didn't serve together, but in the end of the day, we drink a beer together once in a while and watch the kids play. And so he had already been in Vietnam. And he got orders to go back. And he went back as an individual replacement. And it must have been the day after he got into country, Vietnam, and he got in a convoy to go to his unit, armored personnel carrier. And they got ambushed. He was rescuing other members in that armored personnel carrier that was on fire, and went in several times and dragging wounded out until the last time when it blew up and he couldn't, and he died. So missing in action until they could notify the family of that he was killed. But in doing that, he'd earned the Medal of Honor.
Wow.
And he was awarded the Medal of Honor posthumously. So when you think about it, someone that was so admired the medal so much, and me for having received that, to go through something and without hesitation risked his life for his soldiers. So he was awarded the Medal of Honor posthumously. And I thought about that often, because how many times would you be 2 doors down from somebody that to have had the Medal of Honor? And he did. He had the Medal of Honor. He just didn't live to wear it. So that the moral of that story is we got career warriors out there. You never know when you're going to have to do what you got to do.
How does that affect us today? Well, Marcuse figured out you can't pit people against each other in America economically. So I'd pick race, critical race theory. We're going to put the whites against the blacks and vice versa. And that's what he did. And so all of a sudden the whites are seen, we still see that today, as the oppressors oppressing the blacks. Now, where does that take you? Well, that takes you to a victimhood mentality. Because I'm a victim, I'm being oppressed, I'm entitled to special privileges. And within the military, those special privileges have amounted to lower standards for admissions of people of color in their skin, blacks, and females into places like the academies. When you get into senior promotion boards, there's goals there that are set for minorities. And this is the oppressed versus oppressor stuff. And that's pure Marxism when you peel the onion back. That's where it's coming from. You pit people against each other. Now, what does that do to military readiness? Well, it's contrary to the warrior ethos, obviously, because this DEI is based upon division, dividing people, and we're all about uniting in the military. It's all about teamwork. And so it tears at the heart and soul of our military, DEI does, because of this divisive way we look at each other instead of, hey, we all have the same uniforms, same color blood. Mm-hmm. There's no difference in us at all. We shouldn't be looking at each other based on your skin color or your sex or anything else. But that's DEI. That's the Marxist base of it, and that's why it's got to come out of our military.
What I think is it started in the 70s when we eliminated the draft. And we created an all-volunteer force. And the need to fill a military without the draft.
Okay.
So in the 70s, we finished a pretty unpopular war, so politicians said no more draft. Okay, makes sense. And some of us said, hey, volunteer army, that's pretty cool. You know, we were younger then, and the idea was good, and we were filling the ranks. At that point, we started putting recruitment not just to be the best and toughest and kill the enemy and take it to the limit kind of thing, but get an education, go to college, get your degree, go to the military service for that purpose. Mm-hmm. That started, in my opinion, this problem that we're having. And because recruiting was always been tough, that they're just doubling down on more
incentives,
to get people to join. And let's say 2001, we did a hell of a job when we were attacked, 9/11. Sent an entire force across an ocean and overwhelmed a whole country in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It couldn't be done. It couldn't be done now, and I don't think anybody could do it, but we could do it. And it'd be tough now to think that we could do the same thing.
Before you even get started, maybe you're going to talk about this, but where did he get that nickname?
Well, let me tell you. Let me get back. Hank Emerson, when I first met him, was a brigadier general. Already had a reputation of being a fighter, a warrior. He had 2 Distinguished Service Crosses.
Wow.
One in Korea and one in Vietnam. And I don't know too much about his Korea experience, but he had a very, very solid reputation of being a warfighter, and there was no question about it. But the Gunfighter, where he got that nickname when he was a brigade commander. This is after another previous tour, and now he's a colonel, full colonel, and he had the reputation of being there for his troops on the ground, and if they needed help, he'd land that helicopter, and the word is he landed that helicopter, and of course he didn't have his M16 or long rifle. He had his .45, and he killed a couple enemy soldiers rushing the helicopter and saved the day there. But he was helping evacuate badly wounded people. Now this is a commander up in the air that is in the safety of the air and went into the battle, came out blazing away, and so he got the nickname Gunfighter. There's been a little bit of talk lately about Greenland for sale or not, or whether we should get involved with Greenland. And I'm here to tell you that from personal experience, that I'm pleased that we're at least talking about Greenland, because it is very strategic. It has been that way since before World War II, when the United States realized that that's a big piece of land that separates Europe, parts of Asia, Russia, and the United States. And during the Cold War, when the main rivals in the Cold War were the Soviet Union and the United States, and in the early '80s, it just boiled down to the nuclear threat, and both countries were ramping up their nuclear strike capability. Excuse me, and we didn't have a lot of defense capabilities from that. So when you think about it, both sides are ramping up offense, and who had the most wins. And what was really obvious is that when submarines became a big picture in the arsenals, and they could hide under the ocean and launch intercontinental ballistic missiles from the water undetected. But when they figured they could operate under the ice and go totally undetected, we were very concerned as a country, because they could operate and launch a missile through the ice. And I've heard stories, I don't know what the time frame is, but roughly 20 minutes from under the ice, a missile be in New York. And we had very little defense. World War II, it was very common for countries to flood a neighboring country with refugees. So you tie up your military with refugee control, straggler control, resources to feed them and whatever, and then you got individuals behind your forces that they don't have to necessarily be a part of it, just using them. Our sheer numbers of these quote illegals that have come over the United States needing support because they're not allowed to work in most cases, but they need to eat for their families and whatever, they could disrupt the communities. That's what I worried about in L.A. and other places at a time when we were just getting ready to go into Iran, and Israel was bombing the hell out of them. What would that? It could have been somebody orchestrated that. The biggest problem in our vulnerability in this country is that we are divided a lot. We're not only divided maybe half and half from conservative to liberal thinking. We're divided on individual, especially on the liberal side, individual interests. Whether it's the gay rights and all of that, or trans and everything. Those people. That's what they think. That's their priority over anything else. There's really shallow thinking that this country here gives them the right to be any way they want to be. Show you how stupid it is. Some of those people that are gay said, "Let's gays for Palestine." I mean, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. I think it'd be pretty entertaining, but it'd be pretty sad because they go over there and
Done.
we talk about the warrior ethos, and that doesn't necessarily just pertain to active duty military or military personnel. While a police officer may not be a warrior in per se, they have the same desire to help the communities, help the people. But I've been staying up a little bit at night thinking about why are we tolerating this poor behavior in our communities? They put a cap or a limit on how much you could steal and before it's prosecuted. In my opinion, in my day, if you stole a candy bar, you committed a crime.
Yeah, and you probably went to jail.
And could have went to jail, yeah.
That's a great point. One thing that's happened over the last 10 years in law enforcement is this move to try to get away from officers referring to themselves as warriors. And I really have a hard time with that. What we do every day my officers come to work, they put a gun on their hip, they put a bulletproof vest on, they get into a patrol car that has a shotgun and an AR-15 in it. They have computers, they're responding to calls where, as we saw a couple of weeks ago, 3 of my officers were shot. And it takes a certain mindset to do that. And the people that you want doing that are the people that have that warrior ethos.
Started with this idea that everybody gets a prize. Mm-hmm. And if they don't fail as a first grader, second grader, or whatever, they don't know how to fail.
Adversity is an important thing to be able to face because you experience it not only in military but in your regular life. You're going to always have adversity.
Yeah, Brad, and I see it on the battlefield. If you're always looking for someone to bail you out and they're not coming, what are you going to do, give up? I never saw that. One time in my career, and I was in a combat zone with draftees, and one young soldier, he was 18 years old, middle of the night, and we were in the jungle, and one of my guys crawled over and says, so-and-so has turned a gun on us. He said he's going to kill us all, What the heck was his problem? Do you know? I wasn't sure. I was kind of a new company commander there. So I crawled on over there, and guys were trying to hold me back. I said, no, come on, I'll go on over there. So we were talking about dark and in the heavy elephant grass, and come up there, and I looked through there, and I said, what's wrong with you? Well, tomorrow we're going in there, I get killed. I said, okay, explain that to me, young man. You will get killed tonight if you turn that gun on us. And you might get killed tomorrow? Explain that to me. And he looked at me. He didn't say much. He gave I'm okay. And so I was crawling back, and the young buck sergeants, they were all draftees, even the sergeants. I said, are you going to take the gun away? They said. Well, no, he's all right. How do you know? I said, he's all right. Forget it. When I look at where we've gone in the last 30-some years, and gradually, and it amplified in the last 4, to recruit people to an occupation instead of a mindset, the warrior ethos, but just an occupation. We run the risk of being diluted. Because I've always said, if you recruit, now the reason why this is a problem, if we were just recruiting military and females and minorities joined, there's no problem. And they pass the same standards. There's absolutely no problem. But if you recruit any element, whether that's a gender specific, a minority specific, or a cultural issue, then that issue becomes more important than the overall mission of the military. That's the danger of this. When we started the idea of Social Security, might have been an okay idea, right, when it started, because not everyone can be responsible for their future, right? I mean, so they work 20, 30 years, and they don't have the ability, their mindset to plan for the future, put money away. They just don't. Okay. And so they're going to be in the soup lines if, or fail if we don't take care of them. I can see how that got started, but looking back on it, I don't know if it was a good thing.
No, it's a problem. It's a 100% problem because first of all, it's not a good investment. Mm-hmm. They don't give you back nearly what you saved, so you're getting kind of hosed. You're loaning Uncle Sam your money out of your paycheck bi-weekly for your whole career, and then they give you a little bit of it. They give you this money, and it's just a nanny state. It's the government playing big brother over you. And the sell of it is, when you're of age to where you cannot work any longer, you're going to be glad you have this little stipend of money you're going to get, which I'm sure it's very nice to get. Oh, wow, look, I got this money that I saved my whole life. But it wasn't a good investment.
Some of the pushback in the Department of Defense is going to be in the contracting world. There's a big corporation losing big contracts because they were wasteful. They're going to push back because it's money, big money. But you got to have somebody with the balls to say, okay, or whatever, no, we got to do this to save us money. We're going to make us a more effective fighting force, reduce the budget, because we can reduce the fraud and waste. We don't have to cut anybody out. So, a good example where some geniuses in the Pentagon said they're going to cut 90,000 end strength of the Army. 90,000 out of just under 500,000 that we have. Well, that's pushback, in my opinion. You can cut a lot of waste, but you don't cut the ones doing the work. Well, that's stupid. Let's cut down the fat. No pun intended. But we're hitting it right on the head. Those overweight, get rid of them if they can't pass the test. Also, all the civilians that are contractors being paid to do work that maybe we don't even need the work done.
Do you believe the 90,000 that they've cited would be those?
No, they're talking about soldiers.
Soldiers.
Yeah, that's stupid. I mean, those 90,000 soldiers are what we're going to need if we do get into war. It's not the folks in the rear. Yeah. So that's a pushback that these, quote, legitimate staff studies to get out there and somebody's horrified, oh, we're going to cut the military 8% and we're going to lose 90,000 soldiers. Well, no, we're not. I guarantee you, and I can't claim to know all the working parts of the Department of Defense. Who does? But I guarantee you that you can find 8% of waste. In 2001, our war had been different. And if some of these members of Congress say that they can do this because they leave their FOB, their FOB, and go out on a convoy or go out overnight and do something and come back, that's a little different than being out on the front line for months and months and months. Mm-hmm. And so those decision makers, even in the military, are using a criteria that's more modern. Now, the battlefield's changing. We all know about the drones. Hundreds of thousands of drones being used every month on both sides in Ukraine and Russia. But that doesn't take away. You see some of those footages, and those soldiers are in foxholes and trenches for long periods of time.
Would you consider drone piloting defensive or offensive?
Well, that's I think drone pilots is a good place for women. I think actual piloting is a good. I've got a good friend, Medal of Honor recipient. I think the granddaughter is a Black Hawk pilot. Fine, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think we need to have the actual military service member and the public agree on what the consequences are if you're captured. I think we're going to lose the ability to have navigation, either intentional or just because it happens. You know, if we get into a nuclear situation, we'll lose it through the EMP.
Well, we might see the true fortitude of military and battle in the future, because when that stuff gets knocked out, that's a game changer possibly in a battle, right?
Now, the problem with any long war, and the Russians and Ukrainians, but mainly the Russians, are finding this out in the war with Ukraine, is if you have it drawn out, somebody's going to counter your technology with either low-tech or counter technology of some kind. They'll figure a way around it. So that's why any war that we have, it needs to be fast. Israelis took out the head of the Quds Force in one of those attacks recently. They knew that was a target. I mean, they knew the reason for that. And of course, I don't know about the strategy, but it makes sense that they eliminated Hamas and Hezbollah and the Syrian threat and the Houthis before they went into Iran with their bombing campaign. Because even though they're doing a great job, it'd been much harder if Hamas and Hezbollah was able to launch rockets and missiles and a ground force into Israel. So we got a situation now that the rest of the world. Remember back there, Brad, when they were a lot of the United Nations members of the United Nations were criticizing Israel. Hold off, it's the pro-Palestinian group was getting some legs, and you don't hear much about it now.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that there was some great strategy. President Trump gave him 60 days, and he made everybody know. Everybody thought he was just being a braggart and wanting to be a part of a deal maker, and maybe he did. He'd like to have peace, I'm sure, but he let everybody know that he's going to give you 60 days. 61 days, boom, Israel went. And let me tell you, A lot of the aircraft and the hardware they're using, we manufactured, but I don't know anybody that can operate it like they do. So the outside influence is fueling this dark side, this fabricated villainization of Jewish people. They're not even too much of that. They're just saying that they're against Jews because of the war. And Israel has got to identify where the problem is. It is not the surrogates. It's not Hamas or Hezbollah, Houthis. It's whoever's using them. Because those three elements, there's more of them, they don't have any manufacturing base. They don't have anything. They're tribal, sort of. And so they don't make anything. Maybe in some garages they might be putting some drones together, but I think Iran is the one that's fueling the.
So they've got a country or two behind them.
Yeah, they do, and North Korea, China, Russia, our potential adversaries, our competitors in the economic and military world. They're using these elements like the Houthis and Hamas and Hezbollah to bring pressure on us and our allies. Maybe I'm too simple, Brad, but let's face it. Come across the border, have them check in. I got a job. Here's my letter from Brad. He's hiring me for this, and you can't say I'm hiring for 2 weeks, but let's say 6 months at this amount of per month, and you look at that, you stamp it, and you go. And you get a little card, and that card needs to be renewed.
Yeah.
Every whatever period of time that they come up with. It seems like that would be overly managed, but we got enough federal employees that are working this thing. You could even hire a few more if you start letting these people pay federal taxes and state taxes. You can hire some more people. In other words, they're paying for their own service to watch after them.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, some of the turning a blind eye to the hiring practices and the way that some employers might pay people less than minimum is just an understanding that they're going to get a subsidy. The employer's getting a subsidy of some sort. And when it comes to food, like farms and things, you gotta have the food picked and processed and everything else. You need these workers, and but there's got to be reform there in regards to so that you don't make the system collapse because of the cheap labor.
Some of the most incredible stories that you can read are those of immigrants that have gone through Ellis Island or somewhere, even through the South, and worked hard and became very successful. Not every billionaire or multimillionaire in the United States is white Anglo. No, they're from everywhere because they worked hard.
Right.
They worked hard.
They have talent in a lot of instances.
Oh, and
most instances, I would say.
Yeah. So even if people came over from another country with the right reason they're going to work, it's tough to refuse the handouts that they're offered.
Yeah.
What is dangerous right now in our politics is it seems that there's no filter, no control over anything. It's just what we can say and get away with, whether it's true or not. And maybe riding for the brand and the code of the West and cowboy ethics is getting outdated. But we've got some censorship going on, and then where we're filtering out for what our kids see on TV, but we don't filter anything out for the adults.
Yeah.
It's just you can lie, cheat, and steal and get away with it, and you seem to be getting away with it.
Yeah.
Which isn't not healthy for a nation. And I've said before, some crisis or perceived crisis is what it's going to take to get us back together a little bit. After 9/11, the country was together. We were attacked.
Oh, yeah.
Boom, we got together. But then somehow they abused it, they being the politicians. We stayed in the war too long. We made people rich at the expense of soldiers and combatants. I believe that's an unforgivable. It's a crime.
What-
But what I worry about more than anything is that we were paying so much money out of our defense budget to going in the coffers of these major contractors that it's sacrificing our ability. And I always thought before 2001 that there was a prohibition against military people taking on a government contract for 3 or 5 years or something like that, a period of time. And, now I'm hearing, and maybe because I kind of got the idea that they were saying that we got this war in Afghanistan, we need these generals and colonels and experienced sergeants majors and other NCOs to help out the civilians in the contract world. Well, these guys just 2 or 3 years, maybe initially in the first year or two when the war was going, that's fine. But I saw it. There was 2 or 3 years before somebody's ready to retire. They're jockeying around for a job with a contractor.
I see. So the 3-year delay was to keep them in the military, or not be incentivized to be able to jump ship the minute they see a contract that's going to come available, and you can retire and then go take the contract and do essentially the same work but make a lot more money.
Well, not only if they were just doing the work, that's one thing, but they're doing it for a big corporation to give them the insight on what is needed.
When you talk about flags, I mean, I've talked to you about flags before. It's a symbol,
Mm-hmm.
and you've said that before. I mean, how important is a flag? I mean, in your mind?
Well, see, that's the thing. The people carrying that flag, they probably don't have the same value of that flag as I do. What it means, what it should mean to them, that it shows their allegiance.
But I know when you were in Vietnam and crawling down a wall, a 10-inch wall, and you saw the enemy flag flying over the provincial chiefs, it's always sat in my mind that the Viet Cong flag was flying over that house that was the enemy flag. And
It's not supposed to be there.
it wasn't supposed to be there. I mean, you tell it best. Tell me what happened.
Well, we were, after this 56-hour battle, we were probably about 50 hours into it, towards the end of it, and we were clearing out the last few buildings, and one of them was the province chief's house, and the deputy province chief's house, and wanted to get in there because that was a stronghold of enemy, and in the front courtyard was this flagpole with a BC flag flying on it. And as I ran up towards it, this VC ran out and stood under that like, "You're not taking this flag down." I said, "Oh, yeah, we are." Took him out and ran by him and tore the flag down and stuck it in my jacket. I have that flag, and but to me, that was a symbol of their victory when it was up there.
Yeah.
It was easy to take the damn flag down. But the one thing about it was they'd have to fight to get it back up there. because we were already on them. When you see some idiot carrying a damn flag, I don't think he has the same passion as that VC did. I admired that VC for wanting to save his flag. But those idiots running around the streets in L.A., that flag doesn't mean anything to them.
Just because no one knows doesn't mean it isn't true.